and then the Cleveland team. So if this was hockey, it would be the San Jose Sharks and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Oh, God. Television executives would be hanging themselves. If it was baseball, it'd be the San Francisco Giants and the Cleveland Indians.
Well, technically they're in Oakland.
A's and the Oakland A's and the Cleveland Indians.
So we'll do Giants.
Just have the NLAL matchup. Again, that would not be a compelling TV matchup. No. If it was football, it'd be the Raiders-Browns or the Niners-Browns. Football is
the Niners and the Browns.
Football is elastic. So in terms of people watch, it doesn't matter who's in the Super Bowl. People are watching it.
What about Jacksonville?
It's yeah, but I mean, no matter who you put in the Super Bowl, it's going to have crazy ratings because it's amateur hour. It's parties. It's halftime show. It's make your chili. It's all that kind of good stuff.
Jacksonville versus Arizona. You think people are watching? Or Jacksonville versus Tampa?
Well, if we're talking Super Bowl, yes, just because. Yeah. If we're talking playoffs, if we're talking Monday night, if we're talking Thursday night, no.
Jacksonville versus Tampa, Jacksonville versus anyone versus Jacksonville.
But people watch football matchups no matter who's in, whether it be gambling, whether it be fantasy, whether it be all that kind of stuff. And that's the way the genius of Pete Rozelle was to make you care about teams not in your area. In the other sports, we're very parochial. We like our local teams more than anything,
Basketball's broken that a little bit, though.
Well, again, because they went by superstars. That was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They made it a superstar-driven league. It wasn't the local team. It was the superstar. You will root for Stephon Curry. You will root for LeBron James.
Even where LeBron goes, when people follow them to Miami.
Decision. Yeah.
Those two would change your franchise. Turn around.
Oh, yeah, Jeff Van Gundy. Well, all those guys. So is the game on ABC? Is it on national
ABC? Yeah.
So you've got Mike Breen, Mark Jackson, and Jeff Van Gundy all doing the game. All Knicks related because New York essentially is the center of everywhere. Yeah. But Mike Breen, Fordham guy. Is he from Newark Park? He's a Fordham guy.
I think he lives there now.
Does he really?
Yeah.
So I would think Westchester would make more sense for him. But he's he was Knicks guy for all those years.
Yep.
And Mark Jackson, St. John's guy, Knicks guy. And Jeff Van Gundy,
upstate New York
Knicks guy. Jeff Van Gundy was an assistant. And when you watch old Knicks games, Jeff Van Gundy was an assistant coach on under several Knicks coaches. He was with Riley. He was with a bunch of guys before that. He was just a career. He's a guy who went to Yale University and then wasn't starting playing basketball and transferred to it's a small Catholic college in Rochester. So he left Yale for basketball. And so that's Jeff Van Gundy. That's pretty much going all in on basketball when you do that. So Nazareth, I think it was called Nazareth.
Yeah,
Rockport,
New York.
Yeah. So there's a guy who left Yale for Nazareth.
Boy.
So Dave, is the granddaughter there?
She will be arriving next week.
Nicole and Olivia are coming down. They have some things. My daughter has some things to do.
Will she be arriving for you in time to take her to the Belmont Stakes?
And I'm going to tell you, there was a jockey change. Yes, Erod, he called himself Irod Ortiz, is going to be on a bit of a long shot, looking at Lee. Depending on the amount of horses, obviously, that are entered, he's run in both the first and second step. But looking at Lee at a price might be the horse. As far as the Belmont, no, I would never subject anybody to that.
Well, nowadays the thing to do, you always see with celebrity babies, they take their baby, but they put headphones on them to show that you're not subjecting the child to noise pollution or loud noises and the like.
I'm going to treat this kid rough, let me tell you. Get that California out as soon as possible.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, you'll show them.
Think about it again. I hate the Mets made it no fun this year. Because I would always jibe you and we go back and forth. But you're losing Terry Collins at the end of the year, unless it's some miracle because it's the last year of his contract. You're going to lose 6 starting players with a questionable pitching staff. And I thought I would never say that, but I did say it.
Huh? Well, who are you going to
put there?
Well, let me just go back to and Tristan's a Mets fan. I'm a Mets fan. Mark's a Mets fan, right? I mean that's been your stock and trade.
I follow Tampa too, but.
How did that
Why did I ask?
How did that happen?
I've been following since 2004.
So
you just
spanning 2 decades.
Yeah. I'm not one of those bandwagon old guys.
You look at the Mets, and like Dave said, Terry Collins, who's now managed the most games in Mets history, by the way. So Terry Collins, if he moves on, and I still have hope for this team because the Toronto Blue Jays were 6-17 a few weeks ago. Now they're 500, and they're really a force to contend with in the AL East. But let's just say, for the purposes of sports talk and hot take, which is what we do here on Sports Talk, 9 to 11 every Thursday evening, 90.3 WHBC. Collins, right? You've got Sandy Alderson, who is a micromanager, right? You got the Wilpons, who are cheap. You got Jeffy Wilpon, who's a real micromanager. So who do they bring in as a manager? Do they go in with a all analytics guy, which is what the rage is these days? Do they go in with some scrappy young minor league 40-year-old manager and make him the guy? Do they go, Terry Collins was the long-time good soldier, has been minors, has been majors, helped in the organization. Who do they go with? Don Mattingly?
A friend of the station, Pete McCarthy, he on his program today that people were suggesting maybe Edgardo Alfonso.
Ooh, see, there's a guy with Mets DNA. There's a guy I thought would roller skate into the Hall of Fame because I thought he was that talented, but turned out he was lying about his age. He was like 5 years older than he really was. But when he was playing, all of a sudden, post 9/11, when they were looking at the people's papers more closely, his age jumped up. It was like, but Edgardo Alfonso make a great, and Edgardo Alfonso's brother, who is named Edgar Alfonso, they're with the Brooklyn Cyclones, right?
Well, Edgardo's there.
Edgardo would be a great. He's a company man. He's done his time. I don't know if that would engender Mets fans would care because Edgardo Alfonso, we'll use Tristan as an example here. Tristan's a dyed-in-the-wool Mets fan. But do you remember Edgardo Alfonso playing?
No.
Yeah.
But
in fact, the greatest Edgardo Alfonso moment as a Met occurred at 2 o'clock in the morning when I was asleep. He hit a home run against the Diamondbacks when the game started, it was a playoff game, started at 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
But the guys have been suffering for years and years and years would be fine with a guy like that. I feel like.
Would Mets fans be fine with Edgardo Alfonso?
No,
I don't think so.
This is New York. This is not Tampa. This is New York.
I don't think so.
About.
Yeah, I don't. I think that would have been a good move years ago because he's a company man. He Bud Harrelson kind of deal, who's a co-owner of the Long Island Ducks.
But baseball's not a young guy's game anymore.
Right. Well,
most people are watching are old men.
Yeah, but
thank you.
Well, you're not watching the Mets, Dave.
And then you know what have his pitching coach?
I heard East Meadow's own Frank Viola mentioned.
Exactly, that's the pitching coach.
Yeah, Frank Viola. He's a Long Island guy. He's been on the show before a couple of years ago. Went to East Meadow High School. I think went to St. John's as well, right?
My mother went there too.
Who's it?
My mother went to East Meadow High School.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're the East Meadow
Jets.
That's right. They have cool uniforms.
But the Holy Trinity Titans up the street.
Ah, Cherry Lane.
Yeah. Even though the school really faces Newbridge Road.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It does. It's right on the return. Yeah, the Titans.
I would go a la Billy Martin. I would get Wally Backman with an acknowledged.
Oh, they got rid of Wally Backman.
No, with an acknowledged substance problem.
Right. No, they got rid of Wally Backman in the works. Though I think I just heard the other day on the Mets game he got a job somewhere. I don't know where it is, but he got a job somewhere. I think it's the Kmart greeter. I don't know.
He's down in Mexico.
He's in Mexico. Yeah, he got a job because they were wishing him the best on the Mets broadcast. So. No, I don't. Who do you dig back to Joe Madden was the bench coach for Mike Scioscia, and they went and made Joe Madden, the Rays did, the coach, and now he's though any one of us in the room could have managed the Cubs to a World Series last year. In fact, Joe kind of almost managed them away from a World Series last year. Terry Francona was the manager of the South Bend White Sox when I was in college because I used to go to South Bend White Sox games and see young Terry Francona managing the games and talk to him. So that's what I'm thinking. You get a 40-year-old guy who's been a bench coach somewhere and make him the Mets manager because there's young players on this team.
You got to sell the seats.
You got to sell the seats, right?
Remember the old days when
you bring Davey Johnson back.
Who wants to go to the games? The people that left. Those are the older people. How would you bring them back?
Who was that? Like a Buck Showalter type. Not that he's leaving Baltimore, but he could.
But who from the outside would want to come to the Mets in the situation they're in right now?
Well, if you know that DeGrom, Harvey, Syndergaard. Forget David Wright. David Wright can be the manager, they're paying him enough.
But the point is that who wants to be involved with Wilpon and Katz and all their.
That's the issue. Yeah,
and the papers and this.
Hungry people. I mean, Edgar Alfonso's example, but someone who is hungry for, because if you do it right, if you do win in New York, you own the world. I mean, winning in New York is a great thing. So
that's why Melo just keeps on holding.
I know, Carmelo's just hoping against hope. Please.
It's like who? Freddie Gonzalez?
So that's the kind of guy, like Manny Acta, all these guys who were. I was a big Willie Randolph fan. I thought Willie Randolph was a great manager for the Mets, and they fired him in the middle of the night.
I think the perfect way to select a Met manager is you get a bunch of 55 and 60-year-old guys and make them all together like the sausages at Milwaukee, run around the bases once, and whoever crosses the home plate.
Do you dip into recent Met vintage and look to a guy like Al Leiter or Mike Piazza? Not that's going to happen, but are you looking to those guys? Robert Ventura is a manager in baseball. He's of Mets vintage. Todd Zeal is sticking around.
But that's asking him if he knows that. I think more people would know Edgardo Alfonso than Todd Zeal.
Well, Todd Zeal, he's with SNY now, though. So
who, Todd Zeal?
Yeah.
Oh, he does like the games that nobody watches.
Well, because he made his money. He's a Hollywood producer, and he got a nice. He was also Todd Zeal was Joe Torre's favorite player ever to manage, dating back to his years in St. Louis, because Todd Zeal was a catcher who moved to third base, just like Joe Torre was. So Todd Zeal. And like we see, Mike Matheny is a manager. Brad Ausmuth, guys who went straight from the dugout to being managers because they were catchers. Is there a catcher that the Mets could hire?
Vance Wilson. They don't know who that is.
Yeah, no. If we want to go to the litany of Charlie O'Brien.
That's only 10 years ago, though.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm dating myself.
I remember Vance Wilson's wife was from Australia, if I remember correctly. The other catcher when he was there, his wife was from Australia. So.
Bring in Jorge Posada.
Jorge Posada.
Nah.
No, he's not. There's a guy who was not going anywhere else. Like Bernie and Posada, they still had. Well, Bernie certainly did have some gas in the tank, but there was no way they were going to go to another team other than the Yankees. There's a lot more money in being ex-career Yankee Bernie Williams than being Yankee who played 1 year with the Rays. Bernie Williams. I'm
going to take a guess because the Mets need to make a splash, and everything's so political these days. They're going to get a person that's not white.
No, well they had Willie Randolph,
black person, so that number one, it brings attention to the team.
We prefer African Americans.
No,
I'm messing with you.
No. I'm just saying because it could be Hispanic, it could be black.
I know, I'm messing with you, man.
That wouldn't be the splash that they'd make.
Yeah.
There's been enough,
But it's not about.
They want to make a splash. Bruce Jenner would be the splash.
No. Because
oh my god,
the controversy that's been around for so long, because it's not about looking good.
The Mets have done a good job in terms of.
It's not about looking good though. It's making sure you don't look bad.
Even like their third base coach is Glenn Sherlock. He's not a logical.
He messed up today.
Yeah, he's not a logical guy. Usually a third base coach is the manager in waiting, and they disenfranchise Tuffle when they get rid of him. In terms of they put him out to pasture.
I would bring in a South American dictator.
Well, Noriega passed away.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
Well, the other bad guys in town for this weekend's parade.
the Grand Marshal of the parade. Yeah. So, all right, Dave.
I was listening to the Yankee game when Sanchez. I was doing dishes when Sanchez hit the home run, and I thought he was going to say, and this would have been the end of his career, the Sanchez, but he did say the Sanchino. I know that as soon as he says the Sanchez, that'll be the absolute end of his career.
It'll be a callback to Mr. Mark Sanchez. There's a sports. I was reading an article in one of the locals the other day, and the article was written by Mark A. Sanchez, which I'm sure the guy's name was Mark Sanchez, but once he got a job writing sports for a New York newspaper, they're like, yeah, you've got to be Mark A. Sanchez. You can't be just Mark Sanchez.
I need two middle initials and give me a cat.
And everyone knows that Mark Sanchez's real middle name is Butt Fumble. But
yes, we can.
Yes, we can. All right, Dave.
Have fun. I work at the Yes We Can building.
There you go. We'll talk to you next week. All right, there goes Dave from Franklin Square. Now, the first call. Now, we know there are a lot of people who are phone shy. They don't want to go on the air, but they listen. So I won't answer the phone and put you live on the air to win these tickets. The first caller to 516-572-7440 will win a pair of tickets to see the Long Island Ducks take on the Somerset Patriots on Tuesday, June 20th. That's Tuesday, June 20th at 6:35 p.m. The Long Island Ducks bring you Atlantic League baseball all summer long at Bethpage Ballpark in Central Islip. For the full schedule, tickets, and other information, you may visit liducks.com. So again, call up 516-572-7440 right now. I won't take you on the air. You can talk to me off the air. You'll win a pair of tickets to see the Long Island Ducks, take on the Somerset Patriots on Tuesday, June 20th at 6:35 p.m. The Long Island Ducks bring you Atlantic League baseball all summer long at Bethpage Ballpark. It's not the Bethpage Ballpark. It's Bethpage Ballpark in Central Islip. For the full schedule, tickets, and other information, you may visit liducks.com. So call 516-572-7